Welcome, everyone, to the Continuous Improvement Lab. Really glad you can join us.
Good to be here.
This season, we're diving deep into practical ways to improve your team's performance.
Yeah, getting down to what actually works.
Exactly. And this is Season 1, Episode 6. Big thanks to Tim Lefevre and Eric Nellums for their support in getting this going.
Absolutely.
And hey, if you like what you hear today, please do hit subscribe or follow. It helps us out and means you won't miss our future deep dives.
Definitely.
So today's topic, we're digging into accountability boards.
Ah, yes. Accountability boards are a really interesting tool.
Yeah, so maybe let's start there. What exactly are accountability boards for anyone who hasn't really used them?
Sure. Well, think of them as visual management tools. Pretty straightforward, really. They typically show, the key action items a team's working on.
Okay.
And critically, who is assigned to each action the owner. And of course, the due date, when it needs to get done, all laid out visually.
All right, so everyone can see what's happening, who's responsible, and the timeline. Very clear.
Exactly. Cuts through a lot of the potential confusion.
And our mission for this deep dive, really, is to pull out the key insights from the material we've got. We want to understand how these boards can maybe be a shortcut to better team performance and also, importantly, build a stronger sense of ownership.
That ownership piece is huge, I think.
Totally agree. So let's jump in. Where should we start? Maybe with an example.
Yeah, a real-world example is probably best. Let's talk about Orion Metalworks. Our sources give us a good look at their situation.
Orion Metalworks. Okay. Tell us about them. What kind of company are they?
They're described as a mid-sized producer, making fabricated steel components. And they were facing some pretty common problems, things listeners might recognize.
Oh, yeah. Like what kind of issues were they dealing with?
Well, the big one seems to be a persistent problem with follow-through, or lack thereof, I should say.
Incomplete tasks.
Exactly. They'd identify process improvements, maybe related to machine downtime or getting maintenance done on schedule. They'd agree on steps.
Right. The usual planning.
But then the action items just wouldn't get completed consistently, or they'd really drag out.
Okay. I can definitely see how that happens and the impact. What did that lead to for Orion?
Well, it created a bit of a negative cycle. You had recurring machine downtime issues that weren't getting fully resolved, maintenance tasks getting delayed.
Which would hit production, I imagine.
For sure. It negatively impacted their production output. And not surprisingly, it started to affect morale, too. It's just frustrating when the same problems keep cropping up, right?
Absolutely. That constant feeling of running in place. So Orion's facing this follow-through challenge. What did they do? What was the solution they put in place?
They went with accountability boards, but they didn't just, put one up in a meeting room. They implemented them at every major work center.
So very visible.
Yeah.
Right there where the work happens.
Exactly. High visibility. And each board clearly showed those three key things we mentioned for every active task.
Okay, refresh us.
The action item itself crystal clear. What needs doing? Then the owner, a specific person responsible, no ambiguity, and the due date, setting that expectation for timing.
Action, owner, due date. Simple, but powerful when it's right there in front of everyone.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And the study guide we looked at, the driving ownership one, it really stresses how those three elements work together to foster that ownership. It just makes it harder for things to fall through the cracks.
Okay, so the boards are up, they're visible, they have a key info. But, a board is just a board. How did they make it dynamic? What was the process?
Good question. They introduced daily huddles, short, focused meetings.
Okay.
Teams would gather right there in front of their board every day. The main purpose was to quickly review the open items, check the progress against the due dates, and this is important, identify any roadblocks.
So proactive problem solving built in.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It wasn't just status reporting. It was about, okay, what's stopping us? How do we fix it? And the boards were live, updated right there during the huddle. Task done, mark it off. Facing a delay, discuss it.
I like that. Real-time updates, immediate discussion.
Yeah. And another interesting part was how the supervisor's role shifted. They started actively recognizing team members during these huddles.
Recognizing them for what?
For hitting their commitments, for completing tasks, maybe for taking on extra initiative that helped clear a roadblock, making that positive reinforcement public.
That's smart. Connects the tool, the board, with human behavior and appreciation, builds momentum.
Exactly. It's not just about chasing overdue items. It's celebrating the follow-through, which encourages more of it.
Okay, this sounds like a solid system. But the big question, did it work? What were the results at Orion Metalworks?
Right. The proof is in the pudding, as they say. And the results were pretty impressive, especially considering it was within just 2 months.
2 months, wow. Okay, what did they see?
They saw a 17% reduction in those recurring downtime events.
17%. That's substantial, especially for downtime.
Huge impact. And linked to that, they also measured a 12% improvement in overall production throughput.
Okay, so less downtime, more output. Makes sense.
Yep. But beyond the hard metrics, they also noted a shift towards more proactivity. Because issues and tasks were so visible, they were getting flagged and addressed much earlier. Less firefighting.
So moving away from being reactive towards maybe more root cause analysis.
That's exactly what they observed. A sharper focus on really solving the underlying causes of quality problems or equipment issues, not just applying quick fixes, getting closer to that continuous improvement ideal.
That's a significant shift. What about the culture? Did the people feel different?
Yeah, and this is really interesting. Leadership reported that employees felt a greater sense of ownership. They felt more connected to the team's success.
That makes sense, if they can see their contribution clearly.
Right, and supervisors noticed their meetings changed too. They became much more action-oriented, focused on results, less just, talking without clear outcomes.
More doing, less debating, perhaps.
Something like that. The transparency seemed to drive more productive conversations.
So Orion's story is pretty compelling.
Yeah.
But is this just a one-off? Or are these kinds of results seen elsewhere?
Oh, definitely not a one-off. What's interesting is how widespread these visual management tools, including accountability boards, have become. We're seeing them used effectively across many different industries.
Like where? Beyond manufacturing.
Absolutely. Manufacturing and warehousing, obviously it's a natural fit, but also in engineering teams, supply chain logistics, even service industries and marketing departments.
Really? Marketing?
Yeah, and there's data to back this up. The Lean Enterprise Institute, for example, they found organizations using visual management often see task completion rates jump by 15 to 20%.
15 to 20%.
Yeah.
Just by making things visual and assigning ownership.
Seems so. And Deloitte did a study looking at engineering teams. They found a 14% reduction in project delays when using visual accountability tools, often because it reduced missed handoffs or helped resolve issues faster.
Okay, 14% fewer delays in engineering.
Yeah.
It's significant project impact.
Huge. And then you mentioned marketing. HubSpot actually reported a 16% increase in project delivery speed for marketing teams using visible task boards.
16% faster project delivery. Wow. It really highlights the broad applicability, doesn't it?
It really does. The core principles just seem to work in different contexts.
Well, let's maybe break that down a bit.
Yeah.
How do the benefits play out differently in, say, manufacturing versus engineering or marketing?
Okay. So in manufacturing and warehousing, like we saw with Orion, it's often about that immediate visibility for coordination, tracking actions, clarifying who owns what, keeping that continuous improvement focus sharp for quick problem solving.
Right. Fast-paced environment.
Exactly. Then you look at engineering or supply chain, often involving multiple teams or steps. There, the boards are really powerful for facilitating that cross-functional collaboration. Making project commitments visible helps avoid bottlenecks and missed deadlines.
So smoothing out the handoffs between different groups.
Precisely. And then in service or marketing, think about customer issues or project campaigns. Accountability boards help ensure follow-through on things like corrective actions, service recovery efforts, or hitting key marketing deliverables. It drives quality and timely delivery.
Makes sense. Ensuring those crucial steps don't get dropped. So it seems like a core benefit is just making things explicit and visible.
Yes, and that leads to another important point. These boards do more than just track tasks. They actually help shape the culture.
How so? In what way do they shape culture?
Well, think about that concept of transparency again. The study guide defines it as openness and clarity in communication and information, when everything's out in the open on a board.
Less room for confusion or assumptions.
Exactly. It reduces ambiguity, it fosters a sense of shared responsibility because everyone sees the whole picture, and crucially, it enables more self-management. People can see what needs doing, who's doing it, and manage their own contributions more effectively.
Empowering individuals and teams by giving them clear sightlines.
You got it. And that's why you see these tools fitting so well with, lean and agile practices. Those methodologies rely heavily on transparency, feedback loops, empowered teams. Accountability boards are a natural fit.
So they integrate well into those broader improvement frameworks.
They really do. They're often a key part of establishing a daily management system.
And are they always physical whiteboards? or can they be digital?
Oh, they're very versatile. Absolutely can be digital. You see physical boards, whiteboards with sticky notes, magnetic boards, but also digital platforms, project management software, shared spreadsheets.
So suitable for co-located teams and remote teams too.
Yep. The format can adapt. The key principles, visibility, ownership, due dates, those remain the constant, regardless of whether it's a physical board or pixels on a screen.
That flexibility is definitely a plus. Makes it easier to adopt.
For sure. And just to circle back quickly on those key concepts from the study guide: ownership, follow-through, visual management, continuous improvement, transparency.
Right.
We've kind of seen throughout this discussion how accountability boards directly touch on and strengthen every single one of those. They bring those concepts to life, practically.
Yeah, it connects the dots really well.
Yeah.
So wrapping up the main points, it feels like the key takeaway is that accountability boards are a genuinely powerful yet relatively simple tool.
I think so. Simple to understand, powerful in practice.
They drive performance by really drilling down on ownership, making sure tasks get completed, and just creating that transparent environment where continuous improvement can actually happen.
Well said. It's about building that culture of accountability and results visually.
Fantastic discussion. Really clarifies
Yeah.
the why and how of these boards.
Glad it was helpful.
So that brings us towards the end of this deep dive.
Already. Time flies.
It does.
Yeah.
Now, for everyone listening, here's something to think about. Considering what we heard about Orion Metalworks, the research, the different industry examples, what's maybe one small step, just one thing you could take this week to introduce or maybe just enhance visual accountability in your team? You know, something to foster that ownership and maybe start driving better results. Just a little food for thought.
That's a great question to ponder. Even a small step can make a difference.
Absolutely. And if you want more information or have questions that came up during our chat, feel free to reach out via our website. It's www.karasinnovations.com.
Please do. We're always interested in hearing from listeners.
And a huge thank you is due to our executive producer and founder, Linear Johnson. Thanks for making these deep dives happen.
Yes, thank you, Linear.
And finally, thank you for joining us, for diving deep into accountability boards with us today.
Hope you found it valuable.
We'll catch you next time on the Continuous Improvement Lab.